Hello guys, Vertus Education here with the 7th video of the Unreal Development Kit Beginner Series, and in this video I'm going to be going over preliminary material usage. So in the previous video, we went over some initial terrain creation, and by the end of that video you should have some kind of terrain like what I have here. There is one important thing which I believe I missed in the previous video, which I'd like to note now. I believe at the end I actually mentioned player scale, and you know, when you're just painting on your terrain from the perspective view, it's not necessarily always the best you know, representative of the height until you actually go down and play it. So having said that, whenever you're sculpting the terrain or even working with your white box, you might want to make sure you have some kind of reference regarding the scale of your characters. So in the material edit, in the content browser, you can just go ahead and go to the skeletal meshes and look for the little character here. Just drop them in, and you can essentially see how tall you will be, or the player, if you're using the default UDK player height. Anyway, I just wanted to go over that, and now I'm going to be going over some preliminary material usage. So, where do you find a material, and what are they? A material is essentially a texture, something which gives color to your object. There's no color in my scene at the moment other than the standard BSP blue and white default textures, materials, etc. However, I do also have this nice lovely flooring here, which looks very sexy and has some specular. It's got normal, I think it's also got diffuse and so on, and looks pretty lively. And the rest looks pretty terrible right now. So, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to use materials, but I'm not necessarily going to be going over creating them just yet. So, to find a material, go ahead and go into your content browser, just flick it up if you already have it open, like so, there we go, and go over to the materials tab. Once you're in here, you'll see a whole bunch of different materials in here. UDK comes with hundreds and hundreds of default materials that you can actually use. So you can actually experiment with some of the default materials. So I'm just going to quickly browse through here until I find something that I like. For example, I found this nice lovely sort of floor BSP tile that I like. All I have to do is essentially go ahead and drag it onto my BSP as so. BSP is one of the few items that you can actually drop your materials on. You can drop your materials onto BSP, your terrain, static meshes, skeletal meshes, and anything else which actually allows for materials to be applied to. So materials on BSP is pretty simple. You can essentially just drag it on, same with a static mesh, skeletal mesh, and so on. Or you can also go ahead and click that material, and you can right click and go to materials, which isn't here at the moment, and you can press apply material. And if I go ahead and click the static mesh here, it's pretty much just the same. I can drag it on as so, and yeah. And we also can go to materials and press assign from assign from content browser. We can edit it using the material editor. We can find a material in content browser and so on, but I'll go over those in more detail maybe later on. So I'm just going to revert those changes, and I'm going to make my BSP nice and white and blue just the way I like it. So let's go over actual terrain painting now. So I'm just going to move this big block out of the way, the content browser. I'm going to go over to my terrain. Whenever you want to paint terrain, we want to go into the terrain editing mode, as I explained properly. So when we was in here last time, we actually went over the height map. We was painting height maps. So this time we're actually going to be painting onto the terrain. We're going to be painting on a material. And as I said, this has a sort of layer system in it. So we actually need to create a whole new layer just for the material. So firstly, you should go ahead and find yourself a material inside of the content browser that you actually want to use. So I'm going to try and think of something which is relevant to the terrain. So I'm going to get a dirt texture. So I'm just going to click this, and I'm going to go over to my terrain editing mode, and I'm also going to right click and press new terrain setup from material auto create. This will essentially use the material that I've got selected in my content browser and create a new layer using that. Select package will allow you to select the package and the individual object from some kind of pop-up dialog, as opposed to what's already there. You can also just create a new terrain material and new terrain setup layer. The top one here will give you an empty layer, so you won't actually have much to it. But for now, we're just going to go over going into auto create, and any second now you'll see my terrain will turn brown because there is a bunch of dirt here. So that looks pretty cool, right? I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to move that to the side, move this to the side, and I'm going to go ahead and press play, and we'll see how it looks. Surprisingly, this looks really nice. The tiling isn't necessarily all that I wanted it to be, but it looks pretty nice nonetheless. But as everyone knows, terrains aren't necessarily just all one material. In real life, you're going to have variation. For example, you might have rock, you might have grass, you might have, I don't know, there's loads and loads of things. So now I'm going to select a second material, which I can actually physically paint on, as the first material will most likely just fill up the whole terrain. It's essentially going to be your base layer or base coat if you're familiar with painting. So let's go ahead and see if I can find a grass material. You can type in grass if you want and use one of the materials provided there. However, there is a really nice grass material that I like called Ground Master, and I should find that any second now. I also want to apologize for my PC being relatively slow at the moment. It's because I got a whole bunch of stuff going on in the background. But, you know, we are going to start using this material now. So, I've got it selected, and just as we did before, I'm just going to right click in this little area here, and press New Terrain Setup Layer from Material, Auto Create. And any second now, it will come in. However, it won't actually, you know, fill up your entire terrain. So, what we have to do now is actually paint it on. And we're going to be painting this on the same way as we did with our, height map. So go ahead and select the paint tool and control click. Oops, I forgot to click Ground Master. So make sure you've got the actual layer that you're trying to paint selected. So with that selected, I'm just going to go ahead and control click. It's really simple, easy to do, and I don't see any reasons why it might be hard. So I'm just going to quickly move this off to the side here, and I'm just going to paint in my little grass area. I should probably fast forward this for you, but because I'm too lazy, I'm not going to, and I'll leave you to suffer the boring pain of me painting in my grass. But anyway, there's our grass, and I'm also going to use one last layer for the rock material. Just go ahead and press rock. I'm going to go to materials, and I'm just going to press all. And this one looks pretty sweet. It's going to do the same thing, auto create on the little terrain editing dialog that I have, and it will be added. So this time I'm going to make sure I check the rock texture is selected. There we go, it's highlighted in yellow, and I can actually start painting this. And I'm going to paint this on top of my raised areas and the little bit that I've got down here. So here we go. This looks pretty sweet. I think my terrain's going to look relatively nice once I actually place in meshes, and I've got the water in and all that cool stuff. But for now, you know, it's coming along well. This looks nice. We've got our rocks. Obviously, everything's going to change, and it's going to look slightly more realistic when we actually build the lighting. But there we go. It's pretty simple. It looks nice and sexy and sweet. Obviously you can add in like sort of static mesh rocks as well if you want to, but for now this should suffice. Also, I'm going to show you one last thing that we can do. You notice that we can actually paint it on different materials on. You can also remove materials. So I'm actually going to be erasing the grass material to make a sort of path that goes all the way over to my pond and around it. Well, it's not necessarily a pond, it's more of a lake, but oh hey, it's irrelevant. So I'm just going to change the size of my little painting brush here for a second, and that should be reasonable. So I'm just going to go ahead and control right click rather than left click as we did before, and you can see I can actually cut away, and that's definitely a technique you want to utilize in the future, as I'm pretty sure you'll be doing more than just painting on. You're also going to be painting away as well. So there we go, we've got our lovely path. I'm just going to do a quick run around to see how it looks with the final product. So let's go ahead, let's go and jump in the game. Okay, so everything looks sweet. I've got my nice lovely path here which I'm running around at the moment. We've got our lake currently without the water. We've got the grass, we've got the rocks. We've even got our lovely sun with volumetric light fog, and everything looks pretty sweet and interesting. So that's pretty much everything I want to go over in this video. Thanks for watching, comment, like and subscribe. And before you go, make sure you remember that you can apply materials to things other than just terrain, BSP, static meshes. You can also apply it to actors like fluid surface actors, as we will later. So I will see you next time.